Action.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Aaron Hay, Aaron Doc Hay, actually, known as Dizzy Doc. I developed this skull design, I don't know how many years ago, probably 15 or 20 now. And it's pretty popular. People love it. It's not too hard altogether. It's just got a complicated series of twists to make it look right. It's rather simple. It uses 5 balloons. You use an 11-inch round and a 5-inch round. Those are the head and the jaw, or the mouth part. I use a white 260 and a white 160, and a piece of a black 260 for the eyes, for the inset eyes. And this is a heavily reliant design on a Sharpie, so you need a marker to finish off the details on this one. It's rather easy. I inflate the 11-inch and the 5-inch, slightly underinflated, and then I create a lobe, or a side bubble on the side of it. I'll just go ahead and start with that. Now, you may want to use 2 white 260s. I used one, but I split it off and use the remainder. I save half of it. So I use half, then I break it, tie it off, and use the second half for the jawline. So it depends on the size of the skull you want to make, but I like life-size skulls, so I inflate the round balloon approximately the size of the top portion of my head or the person that I'm making the balloon for. And I tie the knot, and this is rather important. I don't tie the knot on the nozzle. I tie it halfway between where it would force the balloon to be round and the nozzle part, because I want a little bit of play right here, but not so much that it's going to elongate the balloon when I twist the side lobe. And I'm going to go ahead and inflate my 260. I inflate it a little more than halfway. The way I develop that is I just fold the balloon in half, and I pinch it on the fold. And then here's the nozzle. So I blow it up to my fingers, but in this case, I'm just going to give it another inch. So I'm actually blowing it up about 2/3, I guess. Yep, I just blew it up to my fingers, then I let go, tie it off, and I create an ear twist on the end of the balloon. And that will lock into the side bubble. It's good to have this ahead of time. I tuck it under my arm, leaving my arms free to twist the rest of it, but keeping it right at hand so it's easy to get to. So on your round balloons, you have a soft spot right here. Magicians love that spot. It's not really a soft spot. It's the dip spot where the balloon drips. It's an extra thick layer of balloon right there. You can see it, not on the video, but it's a concentrated form of color. It's usually a little darker or lighter than the rest of the balloon. I put my crook of my thumb right there, just like right that on that bubble. And then I squeeze the balloon to create a bubble on the side. And I wrap my fingers around, and I kind of tuck it so that my fingers touch. Now, if I squeeze this part, it goes down. If I squeeze this part, it gets bigger. I want to get it, it's a little soft, so it's hard. So when you get it to about this point, you really have to squeeze these fingers together, and then you twist your lobe the size that you want. With practice, you can control how big that bubble goes. But I want just about the same size as my ear twist bubble over here.
And is there an ideal place where that side bubble goes on the round balloon?
Yeah, the ideal spot for this bubble, if you look at the balloon, my knot's here, the soft spot's here. I put it approximately on the, well, it will be the bottom half of the skull. This connection point is going to be this part on the back of your head, where your neck, your spine connects into the back of the head. This part here with the knot is your forehead. So this will bend down and create the forehead, this part of the skull. So right now we're going to build the base. So I connected the ear twists in, and now we're going to create kind of the cheeks and the back of the jawline here, or the bottom of the temple, whatever this bone is that goes back. I think that's your cheek. So I don't want that to be too long. If I put it up here where the knot is, then it's going to be too long and it's going to push the face out real far. You could get different features by controlling this bubble. I go approximately 2/3 of the distance to the front of the balloon. So if you have an imaginary line coming up like this, then you see that that's about 2/3 of the way. And then I finish that off with a bubble about 2 inches, 2 fingers. And then I repeat the exact same side on the other. So I repeat that. And then I tie it in together. So we have this. I'm scoot back a little farther here so you can see it. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to pinch off another bubble here. It's hard to see with the light. Let's see if this will. Is that better or worse?
A little worse.
All right. So I just have a bubble here. I'm going to ear twist this in for stability. But now I'm going to twist a bubble here, which I call my safety bubble. So that's my safety bubble. And then I rip off this balloon, but I save it. And at this point, I make it about the length of what the jaw will be.
And when someone's learning to do this for the first time, it's probably easier that they just use a second 260.
Yeah, you can use a second 260 for the jaw part. No worries. I tie this bubble off. Now I lost all my bubbles because I'm going too slow. But when it's said and done, I had to do a little repair, but you get the idea. It's going to be a little awkward, a little off shape than I normally do. But this bubble and this bubble should be the same size. And these two bubbles are the cheeks.
And you have now 3 little bubbles down at the base there. Got it.
It's just a series of 4 bubbles. And the 2 front ones are split. And now we do our 5-inch round, and we inflate it fully. And then reduce it because 5-inch bubbles are more delicate. And we want it to be soft so we can twist the bubble on it. We want that bubble to be approximately the same size as your space here. Tie it off, again, exactly the same as with the head. You want your knot to not be right up against the balloon. You want a little bit of space there, but you also want it not right at the nozzle. You do want this one to be a little more elongated, and not perfectly round, but you don't want it to be super long like a pear. And we're going to do a side bubble on this one also. Again, depending on the jaw that you want. If you want a shallow jaw, like no chin, then you would put your bubble near the front. If you want more of a chin, then you put your bubble more on top. I do the exact same thing as I do for the big one, and I put it right on the third. So again, I take my hand, go into where the soft spot is, the knot's over here, and then I just kind of encircle where I want that lobe, that bubble to be, and I create the size that I want. We want a tiny bubble for this one. So if you see that bubble is it's smaller than 2 fingers. You know, it's real tiny. And we tie this right into this spot here. So the bubble then gets twisted. So now we have this contraption. And we tie the knot of the little balloon into the cluster back here, and the knot on the big balloon right into the nose right here. Right here. So I do that just simply by wrapping it around, tying it in, spread out the cheeks, and this sets right in there. And we bring the nose down and tie it through. I'm trying to get it so you can see it all. sometimes it takes a little manipulation to get the shape that you want, but that is, I'm just seeing so much contrast with the white. I could build it with a different color.
That's okay. It's working.
All right, and now I'm going to create the eyes, which are just simply 2 loops that go from the corner of the cheeks to the nose and back over to the other nose. So I'm going to use a 160 for this. And I create a little ear twist on the end of the 260. And I tie that little ear twist into one of those bubbles right here. I just tie it in. And now we're going to create the loops for the eyes. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I can't see it on my little screen. The contrast is too bad. But try to get it to go straight up a little bit on the side and then angle it down into the nose. So I bring it straight up and angle down. So, and then I tie it right into that little nose bubble that we put in there, that lobe off of the 5-inch round. And we match the other side to the exact same size if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get my lighting right. I usually do, but
that's okay.
And now on this, I have that bend. I'm going to create the little bubble. This is going to be the ear twist I tie in. Then I'm going to create a safety bubble so that I can tie it with and get rid of the rest. Just tear it off, and then go to the safety bubble, release the air, tie it. That creates that little bubble. I lock it in. And then I hide my knot. I tuck it in there. So now we have...
Yeah.
Try to get the right lighting anyway. Now we're going to add the eyes, which is just simply a little bubble with a black 260. We tie the eye into one corner where we tied the 160 little bubble. And this is manipulating the air pressure in the balloon to get the shape and desire that you want. So I'm going to just kind of squeeze the balloon. I don't know if you can see the air moving down, but I squeeze the air, making this portion of the bubble really, really soft. And I shove it into the eye and then twist it into the nose. And what should happen, I'm doing this upside down backwards than I normally do, but what should happen is when you get it in there, that soft bubble should take on the shape of the eye. You want it kind of a triangular, pointy. You don't want it perfectly round bubble. You want that little rectangular look or triangular look. And so I squeeze it and try to match the same as on the other side. Now we have the eyes, and I'm going to get rid of this. Again, what I did is I made a safety bubble. And now I tie it off. Some people just wrap it around. It's personal preference, but I like to be assured that the eyes aren't going to deflate as soon as the person walks off with it. Now we have the eyes, which are starting to make it look the way it should. And then to finish it off, you get the... So now we have the jaw. So the jaw should technically come up just a little bit. We're going to tuck it up into this space right in here behind the eye. There's a space right here. We're going to tuck the jaw up inside there on both sides like this. And so the length should be This is about the perfect length for that, but I want it with this tail. The air pressure is going to work against me because it's soft. I'm not going to be able to tuck it in there, and I'm going to lose the contours, the shapes that I want to put in here. So I'm going to make sure it's a little bit soft, not super tight, but just soft enough that I will hold some shape. And then at the tail here, I tie it off and get rid of the tail. I have a cutter over here. But you want to make sure it's tied so it doesn't come undone. And you bend your jaw in half, and you squeeze here, and you equalize the pressure so that you have a nice V shape. But we're going to compound that in about, again, 2/3 down. This last third, we're going to put yet another bend into it, like this. So you just bend it and squeeze it back and forth until you have this bend and that bend, and that creates the jaw. It fits perfectly into your skull. So skull's upside down. And now we just simply slide. I'll just do it upright because it looks better. We slide it into this spot here behind the eye. And I grab it and pull on the knot just a little bit and do it on both sides. And now we equalize the jaw. We equalize it. And it takes a little manipulation the first couple times. So you have a finished balloon now. Now it's all the art. The artwork finishes it off and makes it pop like a skull. Right now it can be a face, it could be an ape, it could be an alien, it could be all kinds of different things right now. But when we add the skull markings to it, it's rather simple. Right here you have that little bubble from the 5-inch round. And it's just breaking down the overall image into basic shapes that you can draw simply. So I'm going to draw parallel lines vertically right in the center. Parallel lines. I don't know if you can see those. Yep, parallel lines. And now I'm going to turn those parallel lines each into an open bottom triangle. Just like this. Now I'm going to fill in each side and create a bridge on the upper third, and that creates the nose of your skull. Just like that. It's real simple. Now here behind the jaw, notice you can't really see the definition of the mouth because of the white, so I'm going to put an empty space with the marker on each side, and that's the cavity, the empty cavity where the jaw meets the cheekbones. So I simply do that by drawing an oval and filling it in on both sides. Sorry about that. It doesn't have to be super well, but what you're doing is you're creating depth into the skull. And now I'm going to create a mouth line directly across it. So I simply just draw a line straight across. And now the teeth, you would think teeth are really difficult, but we break it down so simply here. It's not that difficult. So again, right in the center, you follow the center line of your skull, of your face, and you go ahead and draw one right on the teeth, just like that. Now we have two big teeth in the front, so we just go ahead and start, and we draw one big tooth there on that side and one big tooth on that side. We have another large tooth right beside that one, and then it goes to our canine, our pointed tooth, and it goes up a little higher into the jawline. So we do the same thing on both sides. I just do it on one side, then the other, and then do the bottom. And then the rest are molars. You have 3 or 4 of them in the back. So I just do loops, real simple loops. 1, 2, 3, and I'll finish it off. It doesn't matter. The overall image will be fine. And now for the bottom teeth are a little smaller. You have a couple more on the bottom than you do the top. So I do the same thing. I just simply do long teeth, and then as I get towards the back, I spread them out to the molars. So they're just kind of like W's, and then I spread them out towards the back. And that creates your teeth. But we have this perfectly straight line there, which nobody has a perfectly straight line when their teeth mash together, so we're going to break that up with a scribble. So you just simply scribble along that nice straight line, filling in any gaps, and that creates the texture on the teeth and makes the teeth look worn like a skull's tooth should. Voila. And that's your basic skull. And I go a little farther, and I add all the little highlights of a skull that pop it out. One for sure is on the brow line. You have little lines that go across, and those go straight across to here like this, which creates your temple. And then I carry that along the side and create a temple like that, kind of over where the jaw pops up through. I just create a little half circle over top of that. And I make them real rough and jagged, because in a real skull, you don't have nice, smooth, straight lines. You have very jagged lines. And so I create those. Now on the back of the skull, right above all your cluster of bubbles, you do another one of those little half circles. And now you have your half circle on your temple and your half circle on your back, and you connect those together with an arch. Really simple suture line. Same thing on the other side, an arch. Well, these are all plates. These are all individual plates in your skull. As you're a child, they're all loose plates. And then in maturity, those plates fuse together. These are called suture lines, where all your bones kind of float over top of your membrane of your brain, and then they fuse together and create your solid skull in maturity. And that's how our heads grow. So now we have the top of the skull. Here, the top. I'm turning it sideways. You have this archway line here and the archway line on the other side. I'm just going to connect them just a little bit forward on the top of the skull. So, and I zigzag that line. And it's easiest to hold the pen still and rotate the skull. So you hold your pen and you balance it with your thumb, and then you just simply move the skull, and that gets it even every time. Now, use this imaginary line down the front of the skull, right? It goes all the way back. It goes all the way back to this point here. So you start with your marker right at the top of the head on that center line, and you're going to draw a line from that all the way down here. But this line on the skull is super, super jagged. You have a lot of creative freedom on this one. But I just want to go here to here, so it's just simply and then that's your jagged line. And then I split the chin on the skull by creating a line here and smearing it. And a line here and smearing it. And that creates that cleft in the chin. And then you have a little connection on each side, just a little dot from where the tendons connect. And you have them up here on top of the head. And you have them right here on top of the mouth as well. And then my last final detail that I do is the reason it became a skull is I just simply draw a little crooked line. And I fill it in a little bit on top and smear it. And then I outline that smear a little bit with a real jagged line. And then I add cracks to that. And you have freedom of however you want to do your cracks, but then that creates your final suture. So now you have this really awesome skull, which has a little bit of educational value to it. And people seem to really love this kind of thing. You can add all kinds of details and additions to make it whatever you want. Voila, my skull.
Thank you. That's so freaking beautiful. They're gonna love it. Let me just hold it right. Can you move it a little bit to the other? Yeah, I'm gonna take a photo of it. Okay.
All right.
I love it. Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Is that good enough?
I love it. Yeah.
Well, if the contrast to the white was too much and they have trouble seeing the movements, I'll be happy to do it for you again with different colors so that it makes it stand out a little more.
Okay.
And I'll work on my lighting a little better. I just kind of forgot. It's a crazy day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'm headed to the airport now, so I gotta bust out. But thank you so much, and I'll see. I'll give it to them and see how they do it. If they need color, maybe we could do it again. But I think that was freaking awesome.
Cool. Well, I want to see pictures of what they come up with, man.
I will. Yeah. When I'll teach it in the spring when I get up there, so I'll send you photos.
Cool. Well, awesome. Well, as always, buddy. It's
Dizzy,
awesome
I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your awesome design.
No worries, buddy.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you have a good one.
Later.
Safe travels.